welcome to Motorsport on 4 the British Formula 3 and GT Championships. This is Snetterton, and it's the furthest east that the Powertour visits. In fact, Norwich is only 10 miles down that way. Snetterton's one of the circuits visited by the Powertour this year, but there are 3 new ones. That's Knock Hill in Fife, Castle Combe in Wiltshire, and of course the brand new Rockingham circuit in Northamptonshire. But first today, Tim Harvey's going to pick out a couple of points about the first Formula 3 rounds at Silverstone.
Thanks, Amanda. Jaguar won the opening F3 race of the year with a brilliant display by James Courtney. So James, tell us a bit about the first race.
The first race went really well, and fortunately for me, a couple of guys in front of me had it coming together. 3 laps after that I managed to get into the lead. We put in 3 consecutive fastest laps and managed to pull a good gap and win the race. It was a dream run, really.
Big pressure on your F3 debut though, so what happened in the second race? It wasn't quite so good.
Second race I had a coming together with Martin O'Connell at Beckett's, which put me back quite a way, and then I managed to get back past a few of them and ended up 8th, which wasn't the position that we were looking for, but we ended up 2nd on the day, so it was quite good. Main
incident of the day though, the coming together with Takuma Sato. How did you see it?
Well, I just came down the outside of them both, and they both sort of outbroke each other. And I think Spence tried to turn in a bit earlier than what maybe he should have, and I was turned in way earlier than them because they overshot the apex, and then I just turned in, and I think it was all happening as I was going past them, so I didn't really get to see much after that.
Jamie Spence made a dream return to Formula 3 with pole position for the new Duma racing team, but after that it slightly went awry. Jamie, a bit of a creep at the start and then a retirement, not the start you were hoping for.
Yeah, obviously after qualifying everybody was on a high, and you know, your ambition is obviously to win the race. Obviously the race didn't go well, but you know, I suppose that's motor racing in sometimes.
And people will wonder what happened, what caused that creep at the start. A little bit of impatience?
That and a little bit of nerves, I think. But you know, the end result was obviously we never finished, so it was irrelevant. But you know, hopefully we'll bounce back this weekend and put in another good performance.
Before qualifying here at Snetterton, let's take an in-depth look at the F3 scholarship class with Ben Edwards and Martin Haven.
Fred Goddard Racing is the champion team in the scholarship class, and they're running Dutch Formula Ford racer Robert Doornbos and late signing Robbie KERR, a race winner in Formula Parma Audi.
Robbie decamped from Parker F3, so they now just run Enani Judith from Rio de Janeiro.
Meritus retain Peter Nielsen this season and add Irish hot shoe Michael Keohane, who raced in Formula Renault with Manor Motorsport last year.
Performance Racing fields 3 cars for late signing Adam Blair, another refugee from Formula Parma Audi, Matthew Gilmore, champion in Junior Formula Ford, and Justin Sherwood, the current Europa Cup champion. Matthew Gilmore started the season in the best possible way, with 2 wins at Silverstone, to head the points table.
Snetterton Race Circuit is an old wartime airfield, and we're reminded of this every time we come through this corner called the Bomb Hole. Takuma Sato actually made a real mess of it last year, got away with it and finished 6th. One of the main tricks to this corner is actually the initial turning. Once you've actually got through that part, the car sits down on compression, and then on the exit of the corner the car then rises. It's quite hard there because often the car can just spit you off onto the inside. Let me take you through a complete lap of the circuit.
Okay, this is the flying lap with Phil Hinley, his Marcos LM600. Just preparing the car now for its qualifying lap. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th gear up the start-finish straight here. Probably doing around about 145, 150 mile an hour. F3 car, about 140. Just being very careful on the brakes into the first corner because of the damp conditions. Just changing down in the 4th, double apex corner riches, just applying the power, keeping off the curb. Just coming down now to Sear, very important car, 3rd gear corner. Turning in, just letting the car move around. It shakes its head just as we press the accelerator, because now your 4th, 5th, 6th gear. About 160, 165 mile an hour GT car, about 150 in a Formula 3. Check all your instrumentation, make sure everything's running cool on the car, and then just literally looking forward to braking down into the S's. Just underneath the bridge, keeping off the curbing, generally a 3rd gear corner here, turning right up to the bomb hole. Bomb hole, obviously we've talked about this earlier, it's a big corner, turning in on the apex, let the car compress and then let it drift out wide. 4th, 5th gear, turning in fifth gear, applying the power very, very gingerly, and then accelerating quite hard, letting it drift out. Just changing now, third, second gear, braking very, very hard for the chicane, taking the curbing, making sure not to run out onto the edge. Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth gear, back up the start, finish straight. That's a lap with Phil Hindley and his Marcos.
The circuit was also damp and treacherous for the 30-minute qualifying session for the first F3 race. Accidents twice brought out the red flags. Among those involved, Milos Pavlovic, returning to F3 as Matt Davis' teammate at Avanti. But as the track dried, times fell and Matt was top of the charts at the end of the session for his second pole of the year.
Pretty hard out there, lots of cars going on. Too many cars on the track, really. Unfortunately, I got a clear lap when I needed to and put it on the front row, so brilliant.
Manor Motorsport's young star Derek Hayes was next up, showing the consistency that wins titles.
I think we should have been on pole. I just made a slight mistake on my best lap, and that cost me pole.
Nicolas Kiesa put his Silverstone woes behind him to post the third fastest time.
Well, Nick, we're so far east we can almost see Denmark. Is that why you're suddenly going so well?
Struggling a bit in the opening stages of the qualifying to get a lap in because of the older cars, but yeah, I managed to get a couple of good laps in the end, and apparently we were very close, so I'm a bit disappointed I made a mistake on that lap.
In the scholarship class, Robbie KERR led the pack from Michael Kyohan.
We're definitely happy, but we're just going to see how this weekend goes. You can't make too much out of it. We've got to convert it to a win. We need the points.
So for the first Snetterton race, two Britons on the front row, Matt Davis and Derek Hayes. Behind them, the Dane Kiesa and Japanese Takuma Sato. On row 3, Gianmaria Bruni, Fortex Italian star, and the new German Jaguar driver, André Lotterer.
It's a similar mix of nationalities in the scholarship class. Two Brits are joined by an Irishman, an Indian, a Dutchman and a Brazilian.
Cars on the grid for the first Formula 3 race at Snetterton. On pole, Matt Davis alongside Derek Hayes, Nicolas Kiesa and Takuma Sato on row 2. Davis stalls going on to the warm-up lap. Can he get away cleanly at the real start? 5 seconds to go. Red lights will come on. The revs rise to a crescendo. Slight creeping from André Lotterer, but a dreadful start. Second on the grid, Derek Hayes does not get away well. Clean start from Matt Davis, but Hayes under pressure from Takuma Sato. Sato diving to the inside for second place. Derek Hayes goes down to third. Will they get safely through the first two corners at Snetterton without contact? It looks as though they might, and already Davis has got a decent lead. Sato in second place. Coming onto the straight now, riding with Andy Priaulx. Qualified a disappointing 12th. He's following Anthony Davidson, Takuma Sato's teammate. And you see the upper bodywork moving as he gets into the aerodynamic toe behind Davidson. He looked to the inside, didn't make a move then, but he may do as they come under the bridge. He's not quite close enough. Matt Davis leads them out of the S's for the first time with an increasing advantage. And all this battling behind can only help him. A collision further back. And that's the top two in the scholarship class. The car with the white side pods, Robbie KERR, looks very badly damaged. The left rear wheel is not moving at all, so he is out of the race for sure. Michael Kyohan continues, but he may have to come into the pits with damage to his front end as well. Well, a drama-filled first lap, as you'd expect. Out of Russell with Andy Priaulx. That's André Lotterer ahead. Davidson has just got by Lotterer in the second Jaguar. They stream across the line, hugging the pit wall for better aerodynamic advantage. Gianmaria Bruni started in 5th place. He's currently running in 4th place. Out of Ritchie's, heading for Sear in the back straight, chasing Derek Hayes.
Meanwhile, in the scholarship class, Michael Kyohan, who had that incident earlier, missing the right front wing end plate, so that's going to cost him some time now. Oh, and there's a car off. That's Hernani Judas, who's right across in front of everybody else at the back of the field there. Somehow they missed him, but he's ended up in the middle of the track. That's going to cause big problems.
Shame for him. He was 3rd in the scholarship class up until that stage. The front runners well away from that as they come through the bomb hole now, returning towards the pits at high speed through Coram Curve. Matt Davis still leads. Takuma Sato closing in on him. Then Hayes, Bruni, Kiesa and DL. DL is in the top 6 ahead of Courtney in the first of the Jaguars. Winner at Silverstone, of course, across the line with Bruni.
The safety cars there, Martin, I think they're bringing the safety car out. I don't know if the leaders have, yes, they have slowed down now, and I think that's because of Hernani Judas' car. We saw it across the track. Here we are, up at this section. Well, the marshals are with it, but the safety car has come out.
Well, that gives us a chance to look back at what happened on lap 1 in the S's. The top of the scholarship field, Ben.
Well, let's take a look at it through here. Michael Kyohan and Robbie KERR made contact. Well, Yeah, difficult one to call that one, Martin. They were all over the place, weren't they? Just trying to squeeze through the S's 3 abreast. It doesn't really work if you try to do that. I don't think we can apportion blame, but unfortunately the top two in the scholarship class on the grid have taken each other off.
Well, Rob Austin possibly in the pale blue car getting slow in front of them and causing that one, but always hard to tell. Robbie KERR walking back into the pits. Maybe we'll find out from him. His Fred Goddard racing car will need some severe work for race 2.
Behind the safety car, Jimmy Bruni just weaving around, trying to keep some tyre temperature up. Fairly cool Easter weekend at Snetterton.
Well, Amanda's down in the pits with Robbie KERR.
Robbie!
Right, well, obviously Robbie KERR not wanting to speak there. Perhaps he ought to just have a word with the cameras, no matter how bad he's feeling. Right, so ready to go green again. Matt Davis has it all to do once more, Ben.
And look at Takuma Sato here, Martin. He's tucked in right behind the rear wing of Matt Davis. Beautiful restart and green flag waves. And now Sato comes to the outside. Little bit of weaving across into the lead, into Riches. Great move from the Japanese driver.
Great aggressive racing again from Takuma Sato. Wheel to wheel with Matt Davis. Didn't make contact, but made sure that Davis knew who was the boss as he took the outside line, the harder one to defend, but he did superbly. On board with Andy Priaulx onto the Revit straight. André Lotterer on the right, who he's trying to pass, and he's going to use the car ahead of Shinsuke Yamazaki. Yamazaki's just come out of the pits after an early problem. Doesn't stop Priaulx getting the toe, plus he gets the inside line. Well, Lotterer stayed ahead, but at least he got past Yamazaki cleanly.
Look at Sato up front, really has pulled away from Matt Davis already, opened up about 3 or 4 car length advantage. Derek Hayes is still in 3rd place.
And this man is right behind them. Gianmaria Bruni hard on the brakes and now over the curbs, hard on the power as they exit Russell, the slowest corner onto the pit straight. The top 4 starting to string out a little bit as they try desperately to stay with Sato. The Japanese driver setting a furious pace, and so too is this man, Robert Doornbos in car 51, the Dutchman leading the scholarship class from 5th in class on the grid.
Michael Keohan, who was in that initial battle, by the way, Martin, he's just at the front of this group. He's been into the pits, though, and has had a new nose cone fitted.
That's right, he's 2 laps down, in fact, and Doornbos leading the scholarship class, 20th place at the moment.
Well, we've got a problem here, Martin. Sato has slowed down. He moved over to one side of the Revit straight, and Matt Davis has gone past. Derek Hayes has gone past, Bruni as well, and Sato in some sort of trouble.
Well, now, this is a big drama for Sato. He is definitely slowing, and it's not a driver error either. There's Trevor Carlin with the shades on. He's the Carlin team boss. He's looking back up the straight to Russell to see where his driver is, and he will not see him because Matt Davis is leading and Takuma Sato is well back down the order, and that is going to be a major problem for Sato.
That's right, coming in as a championship favourite this year, Martin. What a problem. I don't know quite what it is, but I think he's heading for the pit lane. They'll try and sort him out, but of course in Formula 3 racing you've got no hope. Once you've been into the pits, there is no chance you're going to get a good result.
Well, Sato may even have been on the radio to tell them he's maybe had the engine cut or maybe a gearbox problem, a drive shaft problem, something like that. But it was obviously not a driving error on the straight. It was something to do with what was right behind his ears, and that's basically the grubby bits. So Sato stays in the car. That's just a sign of frustration there, though.
He seemed pretty calm initially, didn't he? There wasn't much reaction, then suddenly we saw that frustration. We're back on board with Andy Priaulx. Down the main straight, the Revit straight, they're up to about 145 miles an hour as they come down under the bridge. And we've got a battle for 7th here. André Lotterer on the right, and the Jaguar just going ahead of Anthony Davidson. So Lotterer grabbing the initiative from the English driver and moving into 7th place.
And in fact, right behind Priaulx, our camera car, was the orange machine of Milos Pavlovic. There is the Yugoslav. Missed the first race, but now at Avanti, teammate to Matt Davis, our race leader. So Priaulx under pressure, and indeed on the straight. And now if you look in the mirror, you can just see the orange car bobbing around in the mirrors. But Ben, there's nothing really you can see apart from car in that mirror.
No, that's right. You won't have much of a view of Pavlovic, just the colour. But look at this, Pavlovic now diving up the inside as they come towards Riches, and he's taken that place. Priaulx will try and come back at him on the exit, but He hasn't done it, and Pavlovich taking that place. We're right towards the end of this race now. That was a good opportunistic move.
I really think he caught Priaulx completely napping there. I don't suppose Priaulx was expecting him to use the pit exit lane to get by, because normally trying to come around the left-hand side would have been a more beneficial line. As you say, opportunism supreme by Milos Pavlovich.
And he's coming under more pressure. Look, that's Mark Taylor now getting past Andy Priaulx. Last lap, and Priaulx has lost 2 places on this final lap. What's he doing? He's been caught napping a little bit, I think, and Mark Taylor goes through as well, so Andy Priaulx will be kicking himself.
Well, he got rattled there, didn't he? And he missed his braking point. He lost his rhythm. No such problems, though, for Matt Davis. He's under pressure all the way to the line, but he is going to win the 3rd round in the British Formula 3 Championship. Well, that's his 2nd consecutive victory, and not bad for a man who had a tough year last year, and a couple of weeks before the season started looked as though he didn't even have a drive.
And down at Russell, the man who's coming through to win the scholarship class, this is Robert Doornbos. The Dutchman's driven well. Robbie KERR and Michael Kierhan had their problems, and Robert Doornbos came through to take victory. Matthew Gilmore finishes 2nd in class, and that's good news. He's the championship leader.
A jubilant Matt Davis wins his 2nd race on the trot. Hayes and Bruni also on the podium. Ryan Dalziel finishing in 4th.
And in the scholarship class, Robert Doornbos taking his 1st win of the year, but Matthew Gilmore keeping the points lead. Matt Davis is in pit lane.
I think I had a lot of luck today because I wasn't as quick as Sato. I couldn't really do much about him coming past me. I think I could have kept up with him, but I wouldn't have got anyone near to going past him, so quite a lucky win really, but a good one also.
Well, Robert, many congratulations.
Yeah, thanks a lot, thanks a lot. It was a good, finally a win in England. It's nice, good feeling, yeah.
Well, to find out what happens in the next round of the Formula 3 Championship, join us after the break.
Welcome back to Motorsport on 4, and welcome back to Snetterton for the 4th race in the British Formula 3 Championship. Qualifying started under threatening skies and the rain wasn't far away. Jimmy Bruni, one of many to get caught out in the conditions. The first stoppage gave everyone a chance to change to wet weather tyres, but that hardly seemed to help. There were 4 more red flag incidents over the next 45 minutes, until finally the checkered flag was shown with over 4 minutes of the theoretical half hour of track time left to run. Andy Priaulx looked most likely to take pole, but was pipped by his teammate at the last moment.
Well, Mr. Priaulx, congratulations.
Thank you very much. I sat on pole for nearly the whole session and lost it in the end there, a bit like Silverstone, but I'm very pleased to see 2 docking cars at the front of the grid.
Just at the end there, I just waited for 2 laps, found a clear gap and put 1 lap in, which was pole position.
In the scholarship class, Robbie KERR put some distance between himself and the chasing pack. His time was good enough for 13th on the grid. 8/10 of a second quicker and 7 places better than Michael Kierhan, 2nd in class.
So the American Paul Edwards claims his 1st ever British Formula 3 pole position, just pipping his docking teammate on the front row of the grid. Takuma Sato and Derek Hayes make up row 2, former teammates Nicolas Kiesa and Formula 3 returning Milos Pavlovich on row 3.
Robbie KERR dominates the scholarship grid ahead of Kierhan, with Suresh and Blair next up, with Judas and Gilmore in 5th and 6th place.
So a torrid time in qualifying for Matt Davis, the championship leader. He starts back here in 14th position behind even the 1st place scholarship class. At the front is where Matt wants to be. It's over to Martin.
Thanks, Amanda. It's not so bad warm and dry in our little commentary box, but out there in the cold and wet, well, he made the best use of the track in qualifying. Can Paul Edwards do it in the race? There are thousands of people here despite the dreadful weather to watch him. It's going to be a very tough race. The revs rise. They're ready to go. Let's take the start on board with Andy Priaulx outside of the front row. He's got the ideal line as they go to the start, and he makes the best use of what little traction there is. Now on the outside, that's the racing line. A little bit more rubber down. It can give you an advantage, and it looks as though Priaulx will lead, and Sato goes through with him. Edwards down into 3rd place. Everyone else will be enveloped in a wall of water. Ben, this is a nightmare scenario. Lap 1, and only the leader can really see where he's going.
Yeah, no nightmare for Andy Priaulx. That was a brilliant getaway. You listen, he didn't use too many revs at the start. Now, if you're down in the midfield, though, look at the view that you have. We're on board with Jimmy Bruni here, heading down Revitt Straight, and you can see virtually nothing. That is the driver's eye view. He's got somebody passing him on the right-hand side. Ryan Dalziel, that was, just emerging through the gloom, and now down into the S's.
Well, there's not quite so much water here, but that's because the cars are going much slower. But there's a battle further back. As they come into the S's, the pale blue car pushes the one with the yellow wings wide. That's Alex Gurney getting shoved off. Matt Davis gets through, so did DL there. And Davis is ahead of Gianmaria Bruni, his teammate, who's dropped 4 places away from the start.
Andy Priaulx still up front. Mark Taylor, that is, off at the side of the road. Seems to have got back on. Look at Sato getting well out of shape under braking, that is. Heavy braking into Russell. A little bit out of shape under acceleration, but he's really beginning to apply some pressure to Andy Priaulx.
Well, Sato put in a storming wet weather drive from the back of the field in Donington Park's wet race last year, so he certainly can drive aggressively in the race and overtake people, but in this, it's dead reckoning. Ben, you need a compass to chart your course here. A set of eyes really don't do any good. And there is Anthony Davidson, way down in 23rd.
Well, let's see what happened to him at the start. We're looking at a replay, and that's what happened to him. Nothing. He did not get away at the start. And look at everybody streaming past him. Very lucky not to get hit.
Here's his teammate Takuma Sato, chasing for all he's worth in second place. Sato looking for his first win of the season. Out front, Andy Priaulx looking for his first Formula 3 win ever.
But you know, Andy Priaulx is a bit of a specialist in the wet weather. The Guernseyman loves driving in the rain, and he feels he's got a very good setup with this Alan Dockin racing car. Let's go on board with him. You see, he's got a lovely, clear view. That is the advantage of being up front. He can now judge his braking point to perfection. Let's listen as he comes under the bridge, off the power, onto the brake. And Sato, although he's quick in the wet as well, he's up against one of the best in this one.
On board with Nicolas Kiesa, chasing Derek Hayes down the straight, and compare the view there when you're right in the wall of spray of another car with the view that Sato had. But he didn't get it done in the S's, goes through the bomb hole and well away from the apex. Now, Michael Caine explained the dangers of that.
Oh, and we've got the scholarship winner from the first race, Robert Doornbos, off at the side of the road. He's not going to score extra points in his championship chase. Don't know what the problem is there, but Doornbos is out.
Andy Priaulx leading from Takuma Sato, Paul Edwards third, Derek Hayes in fourth under pressure from Nicolas Kiesa, then James Courtney, Silverstone winner, Ryan DL, and then teammates Milos Pavlovic ahead of race 1 winner Matt Davis.
We saw Matt Davis starting well down the field on the grid with Amanda at the start of the race. Oh, and Mark Taylor is off as well. We see a number of cars. Of course, these wet conditions catching a great many people out. Up front, Andy Priaulx is doing a great job, but how long can everybody hold on to the traction they need?
Well, of course, yellow flags out as well because of these stranded cars, and it's very hard to see those in this reduced visibility. Nicolas Kiesa here in the Prost Junior team, again on the straight, again looking for the toe, but it means, of course, that while he's following the car ahead, he can't see very much of anything, and if there is a problem ahead, it's only now that he finds out. Everything seems to be clear. He goes by, and that's the move he wanted to make last time. That's copybook stuff, Ben.
Yeah, classic piece of slipstreaming, getting past. Now he's coming out of the pit, slow there, coming, and he got on the power. He was in the wrong gear, it sounded like to me, coming out of the S's, and now look, he's lost it all as they go through the bomb hole. Back comes Derek Hayes, and he retakes that place, and that was, I'm sure, a mistake from Kiesa on gear selection going through the S's.
Well, Kiesa getting in a little too quickly, perhaps, just after he'd sneaked past Hayes and loses the place again immediately. And now they've got James Courtney right with them and able to replicate his race 1 success. But still the only man ever to have won a single-seater race in a Jaguar. A fact that the Jaguar Formula 3 team took no time at all to rub in with their Formula 1 counterparts.
Heading up towards Riches, Andy Priaulx still in control of this race. Takuma Sato in second place. Derek Hayes holding off Nicolas Kiesa here. Fast right-hander they're going through. Not much braking required there, but here they do brake heavily down through the gears into second gear. One of the slowest corners. Kiesa running a little bit wide through there. I don't know whether he was caught out by Hayes' braking. He's going to have to watch out. Meanwhile, we're with the leaders, and even Andy Priaulx sliding that car around. Here he comes through the bomb hole. You know, Mika Hakkinen had the mother and father of a shunt at this corner back in 1989.
Well, this is the closest Sato's been all race. He's really pushing hard, and despite the fact that it looks a little drier online, it's still very treacherous. Looks to the inside at Russell. Priaulx's got that one nicely covered, and Sato not taking any risks. Again, look how much these 2-litre engines are sliding the cars around. Trevor Carlin can still see his man, so no repeat of the race 1 problems for him yet.
Oh, meanwhile, in the scholarship class, Justin Sherwood, that is, diving down the escape road at the S's. He is allowed to rejoin, but of course he'll lose several places. And let's just hope he gets on cleanly. Now, we're on board with Jimmy Bruni. Bruni running in 11th place. He's in a group of cars as they head up towards Riches. Pavlovich ahead of Alex Gurney. Now here comes André Lotterer down the inside of Bruni into Riches. Bruni right round the outside. Sometimes you can get more grip on that outside line, but Lotterer it is who's actually taken the place. Here comes Bruni back down the inside, under braking into Cyr. Good move that, but of course he may compromise his exit speed. So now Lotterer is perfectly placed to try and build up the momentum down the main straight. Listen to the engine on board with Bruni. It's on the rev limiter already as he heads down under the bridge, and Lotterer the chance to outbrake him into the S's. Lotterer takes the place.
Well, that was classic Formula 3 dicing. Lotterer not sufficiently happy with passing one, also nudges the back of Alex Gurney. Gurney goes off, loses 2 places, and it looked as though Bruni may have been coming back at Lotterer there as Lotterer lost momentum, but Lotterer holds on to the place. Anxious faces in the Allen docking pit wall. There is the doc, the team boss, and he's waiting for his man Andy Priaulx to come across the line. This will be Priaulx's first ever British Formula 3 race win if he can hold it together.
On board with Priaulx, he's got a slow car, back marker ahead of him. The back marker goes very wide. Oh, Andy gets it a bit crossed up, or even more crossed up on the exit of the bomb hole, but it doesn't seem to have slowed him down too much. He's got to keep his nerve here. It's been a little while since he won a race in the Renault Spiders, but remember, he had an incredibly impressive performance in the 1999 season in the Spiders. Here he comes, Martin.
Checkered flag awaits Andy Priaulx for his first ever British Formula 3 victory. He's delighted. Laconic thumbs up from Alan Docking. First win for the team since Mark Webber in '97.
Alan, how does it feel?
Fantastic.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has. Quite a while. Yeah. I was very happy about that. Thanks, Mike.
Victory then for Andy Priaulx by a narrow margin over Takuma Sato, with poleman Edwards in third ahead of Hayes, Chiesa and Courtney.
In the scholarship class, Robbie KERR took the win with Adam Blair second, Matthew Gilmore third, ahead of Kazuki Hoshino, Mark Mayle and Michael Kierhan.
That's great.
Andy, that is a very, very popular win. You've got a whole horde of people waiting to come and congratulate you. Including your wife and baby. Andy, well done.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased. Guys have worked really hard this weekend. We've had a hard weekend in the dry, but in the wet we've really hung it out and done a good time, so delighted to have won my first F3 race.
Now, it's been a long time coming for you.
Yeah, I haven't won for a year, but we had a challenging year last year. Matt Davies proved that he can win.
Robbie, you have got a little bit of explaining to do. What happened earlier on?
Well, we had a little bit of an incident with Mr. Kierhan, but forget that. That race is the one that mattered, and we converted the pole this time. We've had 3 poles so far. We've only converted once, so we've got to make it a bit more consistent from now on.
In the championship class, we now have a tie at the top of the points. Matt Davis with Derek Hayes. Hayes has yet to win, but he's been in the top 4 each time out.
Matt Gilmore leads the scholarship class on 69 points. Robert Doornbos has moved up to second, and Mark Mayle is third.
Well, Ben, reflections on the weekend?
Reflections, I think we have to look at qualifying, Martin. It was a problem this weekend, a pure lottery with so many cars trying to find some space. They either have to get each class having a brief session of its own, or perhaps start the second race from the results of the first race, but that would have hurt Takuma Sato.
And that's always the problem on a double-header weekend, but Sato had his own problems with reliability.
Well, Carlin have had gearbox problems, not only this year with both cars, but if you remember last year, Sato at Spa, when his car got stuck in third gear, and that really hurt him in terms of the championship. They have to sort out those gearbox problems, and very quickly.
Well, reliability is absolutely critical, as we see with our joint championship leaders, and what a turnaround of fortune for Matt Davis and Andy Priaulx.
Last year they were teammates, the Probotecmi. Nothing went right from that occasion. Now Andy Priaulx's taken his first ever win. Matt Davis has taken 2 wins. And it just shows you have to judge the whole package of driver and team together.
So congratulations to our 2 winners in round 4, Robbie KERR and Andy Priaulx. Now it's time for GT racing. Tim Harvey takes a look back at the highlights from the first round at Silverstone.
Silverstone in many ways was a race lost, not won, both in GT and GTO. The black TVR, one of my main rivals in the series, had trouble with the door closing of all things. Michael, it cost you 30 seconds in the pits. Has it now been fixed?
I mean, we'd rather not comment on that until we do the pit changes today, but yeah, we lost obviously 30 seconds. A bit disappointing really when we're in the lead, but we should see what happens this weekend.
So £100,000 worth of car, how much was the bit that failed?
I think probably about 50p.
Oh,
it was the yeah, no,
I'll
it was
lend
the
it
50.
to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. No, after the race, the door was open and shutting fine, so it was just the catch had closed itself.
In GTO, it was a very similar story. After a great opening stint by Kelvin Burt, Marino Franchitti found himself with some strange handling problems. He thought it was a puncture, called in at the pits, but it wasn't. Paul, what was the problem?
Well, as you say, he came into the pits for the tyre change. We had a look, but couldn't find anything, and we sent him out again. He did radio back. We had a problem with the handling still. After the race, we checked, and we had a little bit of movement in what a uniball joint in the rear suspension, which caused the wheel to move a little bit on its own. He stayed out for fourth, and we were happy with that, but we'll be fighting next time.
Rain in the second session meant all the quickest times were set in the morning. At the front it was a repeat of Silverstone, the Hales Vipers quickest in both classes. Ben Devlin well under the GTO record on his local track.
Yeah, it's great. It's home track again, so we had pole from Silverstone, so it's great. We now got the speed, and hopefully we can get a better race this week.
You must be very pleased though to be on pole.
Well, the session isn't over yet, and people do have a tendency to put in a fast one at the end. I predicted yesterday that we'd get the car in the fours, and we're just off that, so I'm a little disappointed about that, but as long as nobody else goes quicker, I'll be happy.
Colin Blower arrived with his exciting new Ultimate GTR, but he and Ed Sharp trundled around at the back, learning about the car. Dave Veltz was another newcomer, and he enlisted a distinguished partner for the weekend.
I was up at Donington at the ELMS race as a spectator and got a phone call. Dave Veltz to the rescue. Asked me to come and qualify his car.
And so tomorrow?
I don't know. Dave hasn't said yet. We'll see.
So with negotiations still pending, Callum was quickest of all in the wet second session, but that didn't help him improve on Dave Weltz's 14th grid position from the dry session. So in the GTs, Harvey led Jordan, with Bobby Verdenroe and Michael Caine a close third for TVR. Phil Hindley qualified the Marcus Mantara fourth, ahead of the second TVR, with Weltz and Lockie back in 14th place, sixth in class.
In GTO, Ben Devlin was only marginally quicker than Kelvin Burt, with 4 more Porsches lined up behind, barely a second slower.
Welcome back to Motorsport on 4, and this, the climax of the Powertour weekend, the Privilege Insurance British GT Championship. Now, as you can see, it's starting to rain, so you never know, we could have a GTO car leading the field. Now, unlike the Formula 3 cars, these guys also have a rolling start. Perhaps Ben and Martin can tell us why.
Thanks, Amanda. Yes, Ben, this is a common sight in the States. Kart and NASCAR both use a rolling start, but why over here?
Well, with the GT cars, Martin, you're talking about a huge amount of power. They've got around 600 brake horsepower. They're on big, slick tyres. Once those are warmed up, huge amount of grip. And if you try a standing start with all that power and all that grip, all you end up doing really is breaking drive shafts and gearboxes. A rolling start, therefore, is much safer, cleaner way of getting these big cars underway.
Well, we're ready to go. They're in a very neat 2x2 formation. They should get the green light this time, no problem at all. And hopefully feeding in all that power nice and gingerly. Oh, look at that, a big snap sideways from the second of the Vipers. But it's Rob Wilson who dives into the lead. Looked as though the Lister Storm had the initial advantage. And I think Rob Wilson with the inside line managing to keep the throttle open a fraction longer. But then in streaming wet conditions like these, horsepower can really be a handicap.
Well, it can in some ways. Yes, we're on board with Kelvin Burt here in a GTO class car that's less powerful. But look, it's right up with the front-running GT cars. That's because it puts the power that it does have down extremely well. So he's accelerating down the rapid straight. They're building up to about 160 miles an hour in the dry at least here before they get on the brakes. And look at that. He's down on the brakes, down the inside of Michael Caine in the TVR.
Robust move to take second place. Caine is third, Warnock's fourth, then a gap back to Ben Devlin in the second Viper. Adam Jones right behind him, then Adam Simmons in the blue and white Porsche. And if you look further back, there's the rainbow Marcus of Ian McKellar Jr., who's racing this weekend at Donington Park as well.
That means he had to start from the back of the grid because he didn't qualify here at Snetterton. Look at the conditions, look at the lack of visibility as he tries to get past the Tuscan R just ahead of him. That's Steve Hyde, and Hyde moves to the inside, so McKellar coming around the outside, down towards Russell then, and Adam Jones, oh, he's across the grass in his attempts to get past Ben Devlin in the Viper. Adam Jones onto the grass, over the curb, bumps back onto the circuit and carries on, but he's lost several places.
Rob Wilson leads in the Viper. Kelvin Burt in second place. Michael Cain's TVR in third. Fourth place, Dave Warnock in the black. Lister Stormer. Look at Callum Lockie on the left-hand side. The turquoise Porsche right down the inside, and he goes past Adam Jones. That's some bravery there from the reigning champion.
We're back on board with Ian McKellar chasing after Sean Balfe in the Paragon Porsche. And they're coming through the tight right-hander at Sear now. Now, critical to get on the power smoothly. Try and feed it in, not too much sideways. Both of them were very clean out of Sear, not too much shaking around, and now McKellar gets all that power onto the road and accelerates past Sean Balfe. Good move, and that pulls him up into 13th place now.
Dave Warnock in third place, safely through the S's, but a battle further back, the black Porsche. Look at that, that's Adam Jones down the inside of Ashley Ward in the white TVR. There's the collision. Oh dear, and Ashley Ward's been hit as well by Ed Horner's Porsche as he spun round, and that's destroyed the back end of the car.
Well, that's certainly rearranged things, isn't it? Rob Wilson is up front. Look at Kelvin Burt in the GTO class car, remember, fighting along in second place, chased by Michael Cain, and then Dave Warnock in a rather lonely fourth.
And look at Callum Lockie, the GT2 Porsche, the same class as these big cars, squeezes down the inside, just finds the room somehow to pick up the places. Oh, Mr. Gear or something there, I think, and drops back.
I tell you what, Ben Devlin did a great job to see him coming there.
Well, Ashley Ward's struggling back to the pits. He won't be seeing anything out of the back, and nobody will be seeing him. No high-intensity rear light either, so let's hope he can get off the racetrack nice and quickly. But what about Callum Lockie? Picks up another place there at the end of the straight, and Ian McKellar Jr. also coming through in the car, well, similar to the one Callum Lockie drove to the championship last year, the Rainbow Marcus.
Now we're on board with Kelvin Burt along Revitt Straight. He's got a fairly clear view in front of him, not too close to our race leader, but now he's been passed for second. Oh, and he says there are yellows. That shouldn't have happened, he says. There was a yellow flag. Michael Cain has moved into second.
Well, Michael Cain in the spray behind Kelvin Burt, if he was in the slipstream, may not have seen yellow flags. Well, Kelvin feels that he was passed unfairly, and I don't think that Michael Cain would see it the same way. And there's a little bit of Ed Horner's Porsche. Come back with the remains of Ashley Ward's TVR into the pits. Then I think we ought to take another look and see what happened in that one.
Well, it all started with Adam Jones trying to get down the inside of the second part of the S's. Jones in the Porsche, trying to sneak down, bit of contact made, Ashley Ward's car spun around. Now, he didn't hit the brakes there. Sometimes it's the best thing to do. Sometimes you can roll out of the way. In this case, of course, he collided with Ed Horner.
And there's another damaged car. That's Marcus Fothergill. He's backed it off out of the bomb hole. It's exactly what all the F3 drivers somehow managed to avoid. It's all still running.
And now we switch to Kelvin Burt once again. Now, still in this battle with Michael Cain. Remember, Cain got past him on the way down to the S's. Now we're on the opposite side of the track as they head up towards Riches. Still very, very fast indeed up here. Onto the brakes for the double apex right-hander at Riches. Kelvin's not quite close enough to get up the inside. Trying to get a good exit here. Watch him working at the steering wheel. These tricky conditions mean the car is sliding through every corner.
Well, he's trying to set himself up to come out behind Cain onto the straight. He's got good drive, but still, it seems to be drying out enough for Michael Cain just to ease away. Let's see how it's for Ian McKellar. He's closing up on the Lister of Dave Warnock. Down the inside he goes under braking. Warnock closes the door, and that's a mistake by Warnock. He didn't really have the corner to be able to go over to the apex there, and although McKellar was only partly inside, Dave Warnock really could have done without that problem.
Yeah, he's got it running again, so he is going to rejoin, but that really froze his race. I mean, he was the winner at Silverstone, but I don't think he's going to have much chance from back there at Snetterton.
Well, Kelvin Burt under pressure now from Callum Lockie, and it really does seem, I think, Ben, that the conditions are starting now to favour a bit more horsepower. Callum's car is a GT car. It's got more power, it's got bigger wings and bigger tyres, but it's able to use that power to get past Kelvin.
Let's take another look at Callum when he went down the inside of two cars. The second one was Ben Devlin. Devlin saw him coming, moved out the way. Callum got down the inside nicely, and then he seemed to miss a gear, run over the curb, looking down at the gear change perhaps, and then he lost the place again.
And it looks as though Callum isn't going to be content with that. This is for second place. He dives inside Michael Cain in the TVR Speed 12. Now again, he's got less power than Cain to deal with, so at this stage in the race, perhaps that's an advantage still for Callum Lockie.
Remember, these Porsches are rear-engined as well. You've got the weight over those rear wheels that are doing all the driving, so a Porsche works well in the wet and really drives off the corners.
Hugh Chamberlain, the Viper team boss, talking tactics with Tim Harvey, his number 2 driver. discussing perhaps when they're going to make a change, because they may need to change tyres as well.
Callum Lockie then on a charge, the reigning champion, with this one-off drive, and I have to say I'm very, very impressed with what he's doing out there.
He really is having a great time throwing the car around. Now here's Kelvin Burt's partner, Marino Franchitti, being beautified by ex-Formula Ford sparring partner James Courtney before he takes over the GTO leading Porsche. Thanks, mate, he says.
Yeah, I can imagine he could be a bit nervous. Kelvin is doing a fine job out there. Marino's going to have to try and keep that car in position. Meanwhile, we're looking at the Tuscan R here. That's the car of Steve Hyde, and battling with David Jones' Porsche this time. Jones, I think, is going to have to battle hard on the brakes as they come down towards the S's. Hyde trying to go around the outside. Well, it's a fairly simple job in the end. He brakes a bit later, gets in front and takes the place.
That's 13th place, changed hands there. Sean Bell follows in the Porsche. And down the pit road comes Dave Warnock to the Lister crew. Now they're one of the best teams in the pits. Normally cars are stationary for about 15 seconds. Let's see how they do.
Well, we've got the stopwatch running on this one. Now remember, this team won last time out at Silverstone, but they did suffer the big spin we saw in this first stint. Mike Jordan gets underway, and that was very fast. That took them only 12 seconds this time.
Well, that's an excellent change. Rob Wilson comes into the pits, and that means that Callum Lockie should now take the lead as the two cars ahead of him are stationary on pit road. And I think that's well-deserved, Ben. He really has driven like a champion this afternoon.
Yes, I'm sure Dave Welch must be very happy to have offered the drive to Callum Lockie, who has starred in these conditions.
So Rob Wilson is out of the car. They're strapping in Tim Harvey, and Hugh Chamberlain's crew, very experienced. Away they go.
10 seconds slower on their pit stop, but nonetheless they should be in good shape. Rob Wilson had built up a very healthy advantage before these pit stops were made.
But still, it's Porsche's leading in both classes. Callum Lockie in the GTs, and still Kelvin Burt in the GTOs. Through Coram Curve, heading towards Russell, the final corner on the lap, and that's Michael Caine's TVR out front once more. The TVR on the brakes as Kelvin catches him up. Which way's he going? Caine heads into the pits.
Yes, he's gone into the pits, so Kelvin stays out a little longer before handing over to Marino Franchitti, and that puts Kelvin up into second place overall again.
Well, again, an impressive performance by Kelvin Burt in only the car's second race. The TVR is at a standstill. Now, last year, their very constricting door roll bars made it a very slow job changing over drivers. This year, much quicker. Let's hope the door stays on, though.
Yes, we saw the problems at Silverstone, and as we heard, just a 50p part. Let's hope it's okay. They pat the door. It is okay. Oh, but he stalled it. Bobby Vertenroe has stalled it as he tries to get out of the pit lane. Very quick recovery there, and they rather spoilt that because it had been a great stop, just 16 seconds stationary up to that point.
Well, as he leaves, the race leader exits the bomb hole. Callum Lockie charging on now. We all know that Dave Belts is not as quick as Callum, and that means that the longer Callum can stay out at pace, the better a chance they've got. But that's the TVR. Bobby Vertenroe, freshly out of the pits. He's found a molehill. He's made a mountain out of it somehow. What on earth has happened?
Well, the safety car has come out. No doubt that's because Bobby is off at the side of the road. And that slows everybody down, of course. They all get a little bit of a breather. I don't think it's going to help Callum Lockie so much, though, because Callum had built up quite a bit of a lead in front of the GT cars, and now he's going to lose all that.
Exactly right. Well, let's have a look at Bobby Vertenroe going off. Loses it at the S's. It's all under control. So now what happens? My goodness, the floor came loose at the front and dug into a huge, great wedge of Norfolk, and that's what's propping the car off the ground. What a bizarre crash.
The car was bad. It didn't actually particularly handle brilliantly, so I radioed in, but the radios we were having problems with, so Bobby's obviously gone out and been one of the last of the late breakers and just came off, so nah, not a good Easter.
Bad lad.
Thanks a lot, Jen.
So Callum Lockie heads into the pit lane behind the safety car. Now, this is a double-edged sword because he won't lose so much time in the pit stop, but that huge lead, Ben, has evaporated. They were right behind him there.
He's not the only one in. Look, Kelvin Burt, the leader in the GTO class, also in to hand over to Marino Franchitti. So we'll see this from the onboard camera, and they rip out Kelvin's extra seat, and then Marino jumps in. Meanwhile, Callum Lockie has jumped out of the number 33 Porsche, and Dave Veltz is getting in. Callum's helping, but there seems to be a little bit of delay. Now, the gentleman leaning over the door there is the scrutineer, and he is not very happy about the belts being securely fitted. He's saying they're still not securely fitted. He's getting Callum to come in and put them in properly. Finally, oh no, Dave stalled it after all that. A long stop. Callum's done all that hard work. A long, long, long stop for Dave Wells.
No such problems though for Marino Franchitti, back on track ahead of the Lister, and look at the gap he opened up ahead of the pale blue Porsche, and he will be bedding himself in. Amanda though is with his partner Kelvin.
Many congratulations, that really was a sensational drive.
Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that, and timed the pace car just right, not that we did, it's just luck, but car feels good.
Well, you've handed over to Marino now, do you think he's going to hold it together?
I hope so.
They're all behind the safety car, Ed Sharp with the Ultima, Mark Sumter, there is Marino, and there is Mike Jordan, of course, in the Lister Storm, right behind him, and all running very slowly.
Interesting to see what Mike Jordan will be able to do once the restart comes. They lost a lot of time when that car went spinning at Riches. Now the safety cars allow them to all stack up. Tim Harvey sets the pace as the green flag flies once again, and he will restart this GT race, see what he can do in the Viper.
Well, he was nailing it right out of Russell because he was spinning the wheels up there, and you immediately saw Mike Jordan coming down the inside of the Ultima, trying to get through this slower traffic and catch up with Tim Harvey. He doesn't want to be held up by the GTO cars, but he can't avoid it. He got past Marino Franchitti nicely. He's got Sumter right ahead of him, but Harvey is away and gone, and this is going to be a real charge now for the Lister driver.
Yeah, here comes Mike. I think that once he gets the power down on the Revit straight here, it won't take him very long to get past Sumter. And we're on board now with Marino Franchitti in the Porsche GTO class leader, as he also attacks Sumter late on the brakes. And look, you could just see the other car, the Tuscan, disappearing out of the gloom. So Marino Franchitti getting past 2 in 1 there into the S's.
Threading a very tight line, and all dear Neil Woodford's Ferrari is off in the gravel.
Callum, having rushed to get here, that was pretty good.
Well, I certainly enjoyed it. Dave Veltz and his crew have produced a fantastic car.
Now, you were holding it together sensationally in the wet there.
Thank you. Working hard.
Enjoyed it?
Yes, very much.
Thanks, Callum.
Thank you.
Now we're riding on board with former motorbike star Terry Reimer, battling for second in the GTO class with Martin Short in the TVR there. And, oh, look at that, that's Dave Veltz in Callum Lockie's car, getting very sideways, out of shape into Russell, and the other two behind almost had an opportunity to go past. Those two behind the turquoise Porsche are battling for second in GTO. Back with Terry Reimer.
And in fact, Ben, this is 4th, 5th and 6th on the road as well. Reimer going for 5th position and second in class, and he's got it. Of course, Martin Short in the 3rd different type of TVR. We've got the Tuscan R, we've got the Speed 12, and this Speed 6 as well.
There's Dario Franchitti, star of the chap cars in the United States, here watching his brother Marino Franchitti still leading in the GTO class. And there we are on board with Marino. Quick glance in his mirror. So far he's doing a great job of backing up the hard work done by Kelvin Burt.
And their lead in the GTO class looks pretty certain to continue, but nothing is certain until the end of the race. This is the last lap, but Tim Harvey led until the dying stages of a race at Snetterton here last year in a Viper, and it broke on him, so nothing is for certain.
Well, we'll have to see if he can hold on to that. The checkered flag being made ready, and Tim Harvey and Rob Wilson together have done an extremely competent job, it has to be said, in very difficult conditions here this afternoon. Heading up towards the flag.
And in sight of the flag, he's not going to lose this one. The Chamberlain Hales team celebrate. Harvey and Rob Wilson win it. They cross the line side by side with the GTO winning car as well, the Par Motorsport pair, Marino Franchitti and Kelvin Burt. Another impeccable drive for them to win their class. Paul Robe and his team are delighted with that. And Amanda is down with Hugh Chamberlain.
Well done, Hugh. Tim did an absolutely splendid job then.
Yeah, we didn't do badly, did we? The boys were very sad of not winning at Silverstone. We got a couple of things wrong at Silverstone, but we were fastest here all weekend, and it's always nice to know you can do it in the wet as well as the dry.
Victory for the Viper then from the Lister and Dave Welts and Callum Lockie's Porsche, with the Speed 12 and the Ultima the only other finishers.
The Porsches came out on top in GTO, but we had a TVR and a Viper going well in the top 6.
Well, Tim, well done.
Thank you very much, I enjoyed that. It was a long time coming. Rob drove a great stint in the first place, and I was just having lots of fun out there. In fact, Hugh came on the radio and said, "You better concentrate, son," because I was just playing, I think.
I was driving as hard as I could, and then the last couple of laps, the TVR was really getting in my way, but I just kind of stayed behind them rather than do anything silly.
There's a four-way tie at the top of the GT Championship, with Callum Lockie, the champion, ahead of the TVR pair.
Kelvin Burt and Marino Franchitti lead in the GTO class, with the TVR of Martin Short and Rob Barth breaking up the Porsche monopoly.
So that's it from the second round at Snetterton. Tim, tell me what you thought about the Formula 3s.
Well, it's been fantastic. We've had Matt Davis winning his second race of the year, Andy Priaulx his first ever, so that's 2 British drivers on top of the rostrum. And the second race was a real cracker. Pre-season favourite Sato struggling to keep up with Priaulx, and a real pressure race, but he did fantastically, so I'm enjoying watching it.
Thank you very much. And Michael, GTs.
Yeah, it's a pretty eventful race. I think it favoured the Porsches. Kelvin Burt extremely did well. And obviously Viper came home with his first win of the season, Mike Jordan second. I think we were 15th to 16th, so no comment on our race, and we're looking forward to the following round at Donington.
Well, absolutely. The next round of the Powertour is going to be at Donington, so you can catch all the action there in Motorsport on 4. Bye-bye.
And the pole position for Motorsport on 4 next Saturday morning will be 11 o'clock, and Surf Trip can be seen at the earlier time of 7:30.